Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Easton Library Community Book Chat. And today joining us from beautiful Hartford there is Senator Tony Hwang. Senator, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
How's
I
everything
love the
going
library.
Oh, thank you. How's everything going in the state and in the 28th district?
Well, COVID has kind of impacted everyone's lives from state senators, state representatives, to parents, to our teachers, and most importantly, for many of our kids. It's something that we learn to deal with for the last couple of years, but I'm always optimistic and I'm always energized, and nothing makes me happier than to see smiling young kids' faces, enjoying the snow and just enjoying everything around them. So that really is one of the reasons why I was so excited to be able to have this program, to talk with the library, a favorite of mine, but also to talk about the book, Winnie the Pooh, and in a different perspective than what we always hear from the cartoon, the animated movie from Disney, but to really look at the original book, which is one of my favorites, because there's so many powerful words and thoughts that I think we can all hold on to, whether it be children or grown adults like us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a beautifully written classic. And it was such a great choice that you chose to talk about.
Oh, no, it's really my pleasure. And it is important. I mean, it's for all ages in an interesting way, because the original book, I have the original cover here. The original book was written in 1926, and the author, A.A. Milne, was a war veteran, a military veteran, who actually served in 2 world wars. And that's unusual because he enlisted when he was right out of college in World War I, got injured, and went to Trinity College in Cambridge, England, got his degree and started writing. And when World War II broke out, he enlisted in a home National Guard to protect England should an invasion occur. So he had an incredible sense of patriotism, but he also was very intimately involved in the challenges and the dangers of war. And for him to write as he did, and he wrote it in conjunction with, thinking of his son. The Christopher Robin that is in Winnie the Pooh was actually modeled after his son. And Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, Eeyore, and Piglet, these were all stuffed animals that Christopher Robin had and were his friends during his adolescence. So there's tremendous parallel and real life kind of dynamics that, if you look beneath the animation by Disney, which did a very good job in making it widespread, but there is such a deeper thought and deeper perspective in this, as a parent-child dynamic, a child growing up with adolescence and the comfort of having friends and a dialogue with either it's being a stuffed animal or your parents or your friends. I just thought the book kind of encompassed in a much softer way, in a classic way that's lasted, that these books really kind of capture and give you an opportunity to reflect and to assess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a great, it was sort of, I think, such a unique outlook at the time, this sort of like light fantasy, but based in reality of what a kid would sort of imagine about his toys. Yeah, it's great.
It really was. It brought me back to some of the kind of thoughts and the emotions that I felt. It reminded me of being a kid, and I really enjoyed that when I read it. But another factor that was interesting, the 500-acre woods that was so beautifully animated, and illustrated, and also described in regards to the nooks and crannies and places of haven and escape from the franticness of our urbane setting. That 500-acre woods was actually real woods bordering the Mill family estate. It was the 100-acre wood, and it described the connection for me, being a passionate environmental advocate and loving Easton for its watershed protection, the open spaces, and the farmland. The book also evoked kind of the connection of us and the land, and how the land is also a therapeutic and an essential part of our very existence. So it fit a lot of the categories, Kristen, that for me kind of fits. I was really enjoying the opportunity when you mentioned this wonderful series that you're doing for people to come and discover books and to really enjoy the experience of reading and sharing. This book came up to mind.
Yeah, I'm really glad you picked it. And we talked about, I know you mentioned that like there were a couple quotes that really struck you that you had that you wanted to share.
There were many quotes, and if you bear with me, these
Oh,
are
yeah.
some that I picked up. There may be others that people could share with me. One for many of our kids that are waiting for dinner or a meal. Winnie the Pooh said, use the word, "I'm so rumbly in my tumbly." That reminds me many times when I'm waiting to be fed, and using that as a kind of a moniker to encourage our parents to feed us quicker, or to eat the things that we shouldn't be eating. Another one in these days and ages that just is everlasting is, Piglet and Pooh had a very special relationship as dear friends, and Piglet was always unsure of himself, right? So Piglet, one of the quotes in the book says, "We'll be friends forever, won't we, Pooh?" asked Piglet. And Pooh answered in his indomitable way. He says, "Even longer, even longer than forever." And I just reminded myself, these are words that kids ask and want a validation, and that's friendship, right? That's kind of the emotional affirmation.
Yeah.
Another one that with Piglet, because of the nature, the way we describe Piglet and understand him, is Piglet says things like, one of the quotes I love for our young people and everyone is, "The things that make me different are the things that make me." And that's a quote that's attributed to Piglet in the book. It's very powerful, right? It just reminds people that young kids, adults, anyone going through change and appreciation and understanding of who they truly want to be, it reminds them that being different are uniquely the things that make you.
Kind of ahead of its time for that, right?
It really was. And I'm
Yeah.
not sure he meant it from that standpoint, because he was pretty much of a stoic guy, but maybe the parenting side and the interaction of understanding that as a parent and appreciating the challenges. It's fascinating because Christopher Robin Milne was a young boy that was, very shy, and he wore his hair very long, and he was very soft spoken, and so it was very difficult for Milne, as A.A. Milne, to kind of demand that he be a boy. But I think as a parent, you love your child, and I think it's reflected. Maybe I'm reading into it, but for me, that quote struck me, and it was so empowering and ahead of its time. Like you said, the things that make me different are the things that make me. And for all of us that know Piglet as a character that's always uncertain, that's a powerful statement, right?
Yeah, the love in those two quotes it really comes through.
Yeah, and it comes in it's not a hard press kind of a motivational speech that you come from, like Tony Robbins, but in a book that just makes you happy, right?
Yeah.
It just reminds you that these are stuffed toys and your friends that are non-judgmental friends, but they can still make things that make you feel content and fulfilled. Another quote that was written by Christopher Robin, quoted to Christopher Robbins in the book, that is really powerful in this day and age with the struggles and the challenges that we all have, particularly for our kids, is you're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. That is so wonderfully empowering for any child or any individual that is questioning themselves. It goes along with those type of themes. So
Mhm.
that struck me as well as an empowering and supportive type of thought process.
Yeah.
And it's all done from something that we all know and grow up and relate to. Um, I get motivated, and I feel a sense of real gratitude every time I read that and belief.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the sentiment back behind all of it is just, it's really beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
And I always wear my be kind pin, and look, nobody's ever perfect, but the be kind moniker is we can all try to do better, we can try
Mm.
to be a different, to be kind. And as I'm as a believer and advocate of that, and we're all striving to be better, nobody's ever perfect, but I'm reminded of it. And then I read this quote from Eeyore, of all people, right? Eeyore is another character that we kind of associate that is kind of slothy and kind of like always down on himself, and just kind of Eeyore. He's become a verb for that kind of temperament. And a quote that's attributed to him is, "A little consideration, a little thought for others will make all the difference." And I was like, they did this in 1926, right?
Yeah.
It applies to today. A little consideration, a little thought for others, it makes all the difference. And I could picture this with Eeyore, thanks to Disney. Eeyore kind of saying that in a kind of a droony and low slung tone, is like, a little consideration and a little thought for others, it makes all the difference. And it's just like, as you can tell, I love this book.
Yeah, I can definitely tell. What kind of stuff do you like to read in general? Or do you have time even to read?
No, we read bills and
Yeah.
legislation that are in hundreds of pages, and I have to tell you, I've been wearing trifocals because the visions have gone. We're reading the letters and stuff, and it's important. One word in our lawmaking can make all the difference in the world. For example, there was a bill that I was working on for literally 7 years. We got it passed, and it allowed for graduates of our graduate schools, secondary, community colleges, technical schools, colleges that work in the state of Connecticut after they graduate from a Connecticut school, that for the first number of years, that the income tax that they would be paying to the state would be held in escrow and be able to use as a cash down payment on their first home purchase, right? It's a great program to keep our young people to be able to build up some capital and money while they work, benefiting from being trained in our school. It's one that I've worked on for 7 years, Kristen, and it got passed around 4 years ago, and it was going through the final stages, and they changed one word out of a 40-page bill legislation. One word says, from "it shall be done" to "may." That one word has kept that idea, that law, from being implemented. So
Yeah.
we don't have that program right now because of one word change.
Uh, words are powerful, like we're saying,
Words are
right?
very powerful, and for me, as a English as a second language learner, fluent in Mandarin, the ability to understand the language and work a little harder to fully understand it is something that's a continual challenge. But it makes me appreciate when one word can make a change in the law. But it's
Yeah.
also, I enjoy reading biographies,
Mhm.
biographies of really interesting, dynamic, and unique individuals that exist in our real world instead of just simply fiction, and the incredible things that they've been able to accomplish, the incredible obstacles they've been able to overcome, from Nelson Mandela to Abraham Lincoln to Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, people see Teddy Roosevelt as this carry a big stick and that kind of bravado. But little did people know that he was growing up, he was a very sickly young boy. And these kind of biographies bring people to life.
Yeah.
But you know what? At the end of the day, books combined with some of the messaging that really teaches us and makes us reflect are really the power of words and interpersonal dynamics and relationships and communicating.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that's why, books are they're just so great on so many levels for entertainment and for learning and just for like discovery. I think that is such a great word, maybe for all the things that books can bring, whether it's a story or a biography on somebody that you're learning all kinds of information that you had no idea, or something educational. It's the discovery is so wonderful.
It is a discovery, and I'm going to make a huge pitch for our libraries. It is a depository for books and knowledge and escape for many people, as we just talked about in regards to books. But our libraries are so much more nowadays. You've had to adapt from just simply a depository of books to digital downloads, entertainment from DVDs, if people still use DVDs, and tape recordings from when you're driving, digital downloads that we talked about earlier. And another part of the library is community gathering spots. How many people in Easton know the Easton Library for its community room?
Mhm.
And that is attached to it. It's a community center. And people take it for granted sometimes that we're able to get broadband access. For those that aren't able to spend that money, the library is a broadband resource and a haven for people to get out of the house.
Mhm.
And I hope that soon enough, with encouraging people to get vaccinated and get the booster shot, and to understand the science and support of it, that we can get back to more in person and move forward in how we operate. But the library is going to be an integral part, as it's always been, and it's such a big part of it. And I was complimenting earlier, and I'll point it out in this broadcast, is I'm looking at the art exhibit that the library rotates around. It's really a community center that allows people to kind of gather, engage, and sometimes it be entertained and escape. But it is also, in my mind, for me being an immigrant, Kristen, to me, libraries are the ultimate seat of democracy. It is where you can get knowledge, where you can learn,
Mhm.
and be able to do it without expenses, without being the richest or the most affluent, or the most attached. The library is for everyone,
Yeah.
and it is a seat of knowledge in our democracy, going back as much as civilization can be. So I love the library and I support it. So I know you get part of your funding from the state, you get part of the funding from the town, but for us as patrons of it, I think we as private citizens should understand and support our local libraries as well.
Well, thank you so much for that. What a great little promo for our libraries, and they really
I,
deserve it. They're such amazing places. They're such a safe space for everybody.
they really are. And I think part of the challenge for our libraries is you're always there. People always think that you will be there.
Hmm.
And sometimes when you're such a staple of their daily activities, and you're always there, people take it for granted that it requires support.
Yes.
and it requires active support. And also, I think another part, initiating a program like this, taking the program to the people and getting them more engaged. I have learned in talking to our library staff the programs that you have that I didn't even know about. And for example, you talked about engaging our young people. That's one of the biggest struggles we have, is during this COVID environment and during the the difficulty of adolescence, that you have you previously had a page program where high school students could earn extra money and reshelve books. It's not about the money in some cases. It's about getting a child to build in a work ethic, an opportunity to get out of the house and do something constructive and interactive, developing interpersonal skills, but also a sense of empowerment and self-esteem building, that they've worked on this. I understand that has been cut due to budget cuts. And I think it's penny wise, pound foolish. Those type of programs are much more than the dollar. They are much more important to the social well-being and the dynamic that is important for our young people. So I think if there's an opportunity to reinstill that program, that is one such program that I hope the community will support, and empowering and engaging our young people.
I do too. And you are also working on a very interesting bill that revolves around libraries. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, and I should probably step up and do my part, right? And be a supporter and a patron of the library. One of the things that I've learned is, in this COVID, without the in-person, digital downloads of books cost money. Unlike a lot of people who buy books downloaded from audiobooks or from Amazon, you buy a James Patterson book, you pay $15 and you own it. Well, our libraries, as I understand it, have to also pay that money, but you don't really own it. You're given a right of 10 subscriptions, and you can only allow 10 subscriptions to go out. That being said, it's a costly budgetary item for our libraries. And one of the things I'm going to propose in a bipartisan effort with my Democratic colleagues is to be able to ask the publishers to reduce the digital rights cost to our libraries, because you're doing it out of nonprofit and philanthropy, and being able to share that content. The cost should reflect that nonprofit community interested intent. So that is one where we want to reduce the cost, because if we can reduce the cost of the library, it lowers your budget requirements, and you can use that money to do other in-person programming or other interesting programs.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. And like, even books like Winnie the Pooh, we have available on our website as a downloadable audiobook.
It
So
is.
how cool is that? I don't know who reads it, but that would be really fun to listen to.
I didn't know you could download it.
Yeah.
See, I learned new things. You know what? In driving up to Hartford as often as we have, because we start legislative session, hopefully in person, and hopefully without the governor's executive powers, that we get a chance to start really representing the interest of the community. It's a long drive, so I always listen to audiobooks.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad to learn that I can download it. I will.
Yeah, I know. That'll be fun. That'll be like you'll get to work, you'll be feeling so good and so happy and like, all supported. It'll be great.
I mean, it's just the true reflection of friendships, and I know how it resonates with their younger people, but another quote that Pooh said, it just comes out, and look, Pooh is Pooh. Maybe he's more enamored with getting his honey to fill his tummy, but he comes up with some of the wittiest things that just make people feel connected. So look, like one of the other quotes is, right, if you live to be 100, I hope that I live to be 100 minus 1 day, so that I will never have to live a day without you. When he said that to Piglet.
Aww.
I mean, just like It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the kids when they read that don't understand it, but they know how that feels, you know. And what's the other one that touches me? I'm sounding like a big lump of sentimentality, but you know, what's this quote from? Sometimes the smallest things that takes up the most room in your heart.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
he was
like,
good, man. He was no slouch, that AA Milne. He could really,
right.
like, just the feelings that he evokes and the emotions and the supportive quality. Yeah, it's pretty
And he
impressive.
was a stoic guy. I mean, he was a no nonsense disciplinarian. And what comes out of that was, it was fascinating,
Yeah.
because he wrote it with his son in mind. It just shows, you know, um, and of course, I've said it a million times. Maybe the first thing that comes to mind is the classic from Winnie the Pooh. Oh, bother.
Yeah. Oh, bother. Yeah.
Right? It's sort of like, oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it really is. It shows the power of a book to transcend. And don't get me wrong, there are some classic Milne aficionados who do not like the Disney version. And for me, look, Disney did what it did to promote the ideal.
Yeah.
And if perhaps we, through our kids in the conversation, can say, Winnie the Pooh, oh yeah, but then they say, you know what, maybe you should take a moment if you're at that reading level and read it and share these kind of moments with the kids, that these would be powerful complements to these valuable life lessons that make all the difference in the world. And if we can use all of the tools we have in our repertoire to be able to teach powerful and enduring and empowering lessons, then why not use everything available to us? And this is one part for me to share, me being a big kind of lump of sentimentality and saying this is a great book, and it's one where parents could read with their kids and
Oh,
they
yeah.
can associate and connect with that, and
Yeah.
get these lines out there that the kids are loved, they're supported, and even in the worst of challenges, even with the any hints of bullying that may occur in our social emotional dynamic, that there are still people that love you and support you. And I think the word is, the things that make you different are the things that make you, and you are indeed braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think of yourself.
Well, I think on that fantastic, beautiful end note, I am going to thank you so much, Senator Hwang, for coming to visit us on Easton Library Community Book Chat. And I really appreciate you taking time out, because I know how busy you are.
Never too busy. And look, I appreciate the opportunity for me to be a kid during this taping to remind myself sometimes, look, people need to recognize we are not perfect and we do make mistakes. But in doing that, I think we can all strive to learn from it and do better. And that's really, what I try to do every day. But at the same time, it's nice to get a little help from an old classic favorite.
From an
And I
old friend.
appreciate you doing this program. I was very excited to participate, and I hope I contributed.
Oh, it's been a joy. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. And
my
everybody
pleasure.
stay safe. And I hope to see you again here very soon.
Support the libraries.
Yay! Thanks.
Bye.